there, Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk Bounty video, and welcome to episode 86 of Ask Bossk Bounty. This is, of course, the weekly series that drops every Sunday, where you guys ask me questions in the comment section below, and I do my very best to answer them each week for you. So if you do have a question for next week's episode, please leave it in the comment section below, and hopefully you'll be featured on next week's episode. And if you do happen to enjoy the video, don't forget to drop a like down below, because that really does help the video and the channel. And with all that being said, we have another bumper issue this week, loads and loads of amazing questions, and later on in the video I will be opening up this piece of fan mail sent to me by Collector 1970, which I kind of know what it is, and if it is what I think it is, then it's absolutely crazy, unbelievable gift. So stay tuned for that. Alright then, so that's coming up later, so let's get on to the first question. GeForce Racing 20 says, great episode, boss. Question for next week. We had Saw Gerrera in a Rogue One 4-pack. Do you think we can expect to get a vintage collection Saw Gerrera now that Rogue One figs are being remade in the Black Series? Saw Gerrera, in my opinion, would be an awesome figure to have in any of the scales. I don't think it's been announced in the Black Series, and with all the other figures that are coming out for the Black Series in that line of Rogue One figures, I doubt that it's too far away. In the vintage collection, I think we're hoping a little bit too much for that. I would much prefer them to finish off the actual gang of heroes, such as Bodhi, Rook and Baze Malbus first, and if we get any of those two this year, then I'll be very, very happy. But I think Saw Gerrera might be a stretch too far, but of course, you never know. The sculpt for the 3.75 inch version was brilliant. If they could somehow use that sculpt and just articulate it, then that would be brilliant, but I'm not too sure if it's as easy as that. James Andrews says, hey Bossk man, what do you think the San Diego Comic Con exclusive will be this year? Was hoping for Bo-Katan and her crew, but not sure it will be due to her single card announcement. Also, when do you think, or even do you think, we'll be getting a Ponkrell? Joking, haha, Paz Vizsla, the heavy infantry Mandalorian in the vintage collection. Keep up the great work. Yes, I was very much like you. I was almost convinced, well, I convinced myself that the 3-pack for the SDCC exclusive this year would be like Bo-Katan and Koska Reeves and Axis Wolves, I think his name is, because that would have been quite an obvious 3-pack to do. They're a trio of characters, and that would have been awesome. And then, of course, later on they could release them single carded. But you're absolutely right, we've got the announcement of Bo-Katan, so that kind of makes that less likely. Could it be a Rogue One 3-pack of some description to get us those characters that we do need? Or could it be something to do with the 96, where we get maybe the original Leia, Luke and Han Solo redone? I really don't know. Impossible to know right now, but it can't be that long before they reveal it, surely. Swamps says, hi boss, great video, and I'm a huge fan of the channel. Thank you, Swamps. 2022 will be the 10th anniversary of the Star Tours The Adventures Continues ride at Disney Parks. Given that, would you like to see a re-release of the Star Tours Loading Crew released as a Parks exclusive? I'm trying to get all of the Ewoks right now, and Teak and the Ewok drummer are hard to buy and were included in that set. Yes, I had to actually look up this set to remind myself of it. It's the boarding party crew, isn't it, where you do get those 2 Ewoks. And to be honest, I really don't know, because obviously that Star Tours ride is kind of being replaced with Galaxy's Edge. I know they are continuing the ride and sort of updating it and what have you. And yes, because of the anniversary, they may do something around that ride. I think there was something else that they brought out. Maybe it was the actual sort of vehicle itself that they redid. Not too sure about figures. It would be great, because I mean, Ewoks, they're fantastic. Marky D 1967 says, question for next week. I'm beginning to feel the vintage collection is becoming diluted. To me, there's nothing vintage about Baby Grogu and characters from the modern new media. That said, how would you feel if Hasbro changed its focus to use the TVC line strictly for the original 96, like they promised, and created new packaging lines for the new media like the Bad Batch, Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan series, Mandalorian, etc. I think they need to put the vintage back in the vintage collection. Part of me kind of agrees with that the vintage collection should only really be original trilogy possibly, or the 96. But then again, I've always really liked it where you've got, you know, figures from Attack of the Clones and the Mandalorian on those vintage style cards, because to me that's how Kenner would have done it. If Kenner had carried on the line, not sold out to Hasbro, continued with these card backs, then you would have got all these new media characters on these card backs, and that's why I kind of like it. And also, if you look at the Vintage Collection 1.0, I think over 50 of them are not from the original trilogy. And that just tells you that maybe it's always been diluted. It's not a new thing. As I say, even in the Vintage Collection 1.0, it wasn't just the original trilogy or the original 96. In fact, if you remove Return of the Jedi, very few of the Vintage Collection 1.0 are actually Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars figures. They you know, Return of the Jedi dominates the line. Destroy the Resistance says, question for next week, why didn't they make the Mos Eisley Cantina and they made the Navarro Cantina? So yeah, it's a good question, but I think it probably just has something to do with the fact that it's current new media. The Navarro playset kind of covers all bases. There was a big battle in the Navarro Cantina in the final episode of season 1. It was a very, very cool scene. We've got a lot of the figures that go in that sort of final battle already, so it's kind of a no-brainer, really. I think if they did a Mos Eisley Cantina, then people like myself would kick off that we don't have the characters in the modern line. Herminator06, great video as always. My question is, do you have any recommendations on how to get your vintage collection cards straight? I have 2 carded TVC figures that are in good condition but don't have straight cards. Yep, I do have some advice. Just get some really, really heavy books. I've done it recently, in fact, on a figure of mine where the card was a little bit warped and bent out of shape. 2 weeks under these books and it came out flat as a pancake. Eddie says, hello, I have a non-Star Wars question for you. How many different countries have you been to? Love your grading video. Go watch it, everyone. Yes, go watch it, everyone. Well done, Eddie. Thanks for that, mate. Countries, how many have I been to? A fair amount, I would say. I've never been to any in South America. I've never been to any in like Asia or Australia or anywhere like that, sort of that far away. But in terms of Europe, I've been to a lot of the countries in Europe. Italy, France, Germany, Poland, Denmark, Netherlands, Estonia, Czech Republic, loads and loads. Been to a few in Africa, in terms of North Africa, like Tunisia and Morocco. But yeah, I would say possibly the furthest I've been is the United States of America. I've been to Florida a couple of times and New York. Connor says, another great video, Bossk. My question for next week is, if Bossk was to appear in the Book of Boba Fett as speculated and Hot Toys made a Bossk 1/6 scale figure, would this be your first Hot Toys pickup? Absolutely. I would not be able to resist it. It would be pre-ordered on day one. Honor232 says, do you think they'll ever redo a Phase 1 Captain Rex or the other Phase 1 clone troopers? Well, this is why I've got these guys here, and I would absolutely love them to do that. And I think with the new Rex that's coming, which is based on this body, the VC45 body, of course it's a little bit different because it's a Phase 2 helmet and everything with his poncho, but ultimately the body is pretty much the same. And yeah, they could easily make a Phase 1 Rex out of those, which would be pretty cool. Of course, they're concentrating on the Bad Batch and the sort of latter episodes of the Clone Wars, where they're in their Phase 2 armor at that point. So, you know, Phase 1 is on the back burner at the moment, but it's the Attack of the Clones anniversary next year, I do believe, I think. And if that is the case, then hopefully we'll see some more of these guys and some variations like the, I think this is the Sergeant here in the green. Pretty cool. Adam Guggenheim says, question, the Republic Trooper sold out in an instant. Is that it? Any chance Hasbro will restock? All right, so this is the Republic Trooper. And of course, the one that they're going to be releasing will probably change card backs. I think it may say Star Wars on it. Not too sure if they can use the expanded universe anymore. But yeah, this was the figure that won the fan vote. And I think it went up for pre-order on Hasbro Pulse and the Disney store. I may even be wrong about that. I think it is a Disney store exclusive, but it hasn't actually gone up for sale yet. That I may be wrong. I'm not too sure about you folks in the US, but I mean, I was lucky enough to get one on Hasbro Pulse in the UK. But I think in terms of restocking, I think we might be okay with this one because it is a fair way away. This one's not going to be actually released until July 2022, I believe. And if that's the case, then I think Hasbro have got enough time to sort of look at the numbers of how many have been pre-ordered and maybe put another order in for even more to be produced. So fingers crossed on that front. All right then, so a little bit of a break from the questions to open up this piece of fan mail, which I am extremely worried about opening on camera because I know I'm going to be shocked. I kind of know what it is, or I think I know what it is, and this is just beyond generous. And this is from Collector1970, a fan of the channel. He's been commenting on my videos for as long as I can remember, really. And yeah, he wrote to me and he said he was going to send me a figure that he no longer needs in his collection because he's focusing on modern figures. And he felt that I would be able to give it a good home, and I can assure you I will. Now, he did mention a Sears exclusive, and it's a vintage figure, so that kind of made me think that it could potentially be one particular figure. And if it is that figure, I will truly, truly be shocked and completely speechless, because people that will know me personally know that I'm not very good at accepting gifts. I'm not very good at accepting compliments and things like that. I get very sort of bashful about it. I never know what to say. I'm shaking now. My voice is shaking now, and it's just overwhelming. I just cannot deal with it, if I'm honest with you. So first of all, let's get out the note. So, hey Bossk, when I said that I thought that Hasbro should come out with all of the top heroes and villains first, I think that my blue snaggletooth took offence to that. So he thought that you were right and he wanted to go live with you. I told him to get the F out, so I hope that you don't mind if you take him off my hands. In all seriousness, I just want a good home for him. He just doesn't fit in with my modern figure collection, and I know you'll give him a good home. It's never been about money for me. It's about helping each other out. Cheers, Mike. Whew, okay. And you can see what it is through the bag. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is a vintage blue snaggletooth. And it's something I've never owned in my collection. Even back in the day, I never had one of these. In fact, I didn't ever even see one of these until I was an adult. So for somebody to send me this in this condition, as I say, I honestly just don't know what to say, except thank you, and that I appreciate it. And 1,000,000% this will be treasured. It will be in my cabinet with all my other vintage Star Wars figures. I will never let it go. It's just unbelievable, the generosity of people. And I know at the end of the day that I believe that I do work hard on these videos. I make a lot of videos. I try and put out content that you guys enjoy, but that I don't ask for anything in return except for the fact that you hopefully watch and enjoy my videos. I don't ask for anything in return. I never ask for anyone to send me a thing. But for somebody to just send this out of the blue is, I'm just speechless. I'm gobsmacked. I just do not know what to say except for thank you. So thank you, Collector 1970, Mike, whichever you like to be called. This will be treasured to the max. Dark Jedi Johnny says, hey Boss, thanks for all the info and videos. Question for next week: do you think with all the new media we are getting and going to get from Disney now, like The Bad Batch, Book of Boba and or Kenobi, Ahsoka and Rogue Squadron, that Hasbro will find it difficult to keep up producing figures for all of these, as it seems like we are still missing loads of characters from existing stuff already? I've got to admit, my friend, it is a concern, and this is one of the reasons I do what I do with these videos, is to hopefully put some pressure and make noise so Hasbro can see the popularity of the vintage collection and ultimately give us more figures in the future. I think 2021 has been a great year so far. I think we've got a lot more than we did last year. We're getting some awesome new sculpts with the Bo-Katan and the Myth Roll and things like that. They've just got to continue that. And when all these new shows come out, they've got to go full force with it. They've got to give us 5, 6, 7 characters from each show, not just dribble in a wave of 6 figures with 1 from each show or something like that, or have these like mini beats where you get 3 or 4 figures at a time. At some point they're going to have to bite the bullet and say, look, we've got 3 or 4 shows here which are hugely popular and we could sell thousands of figures. And just make them and just give us the figures. Everybody wants the figures. Come on, Hasbro. But it is a concern, I admit, and the last thing I want is for there to be, 2 or 3 shows that are really popular, that are out at around the same time, and we just get a few figures from each. That would be truly awful. Donald Allen says, hi Tim, question for next week. Does the fact that the Black Series is getting a HasLab project mean that the Vintage Collection will have to wait, or could there be concurrent projects? I'm ready for another big Vintage Collection project. Thanks. Well, first of all, Donald, thank you so much for becoming a Trandoshan warrior on Patreon. Really appreciate that, my friend. And in terms of the HasLab project, us Vintage Collection fans have been a little bit spoilt in the fact that the last 2 or the first 2 HasLab projects for the Star Wars have been around the Vintage Collection. And now, of course, the fans of the Black Series get to have a HasLab project too. We don't really know what that's going to be yet. In terms of having 2 concurrent, history would say that they don't, but fingers crossed that they do. I think these Hasbro HasLab projects have proven a success for them, so there's no reason why they shouldn't do more of them. Of course, us as the consumer, we'd rather not them do that. But if that is the model that they're going for, to get these sort of things out that they do not feel that they can put out at retail, then I'm all for more of them. But maybe it comes down to the price. Maybe they feel that the average consumer can't really afford 2 projects a year, perhaps. And of course, a lot of people do collect both lines. So when the Black Series one drops, I will be interested in it to see what it is, and I will probably end up purchasing it. And will that mean that then I possibly won't be able to afford a vintage collection one if the vintage collection one came out? So it's a difficult one. I think we'll just have to wait and see. It would be good though to have another vintage collection one. Absolutely, I'm with you 100% on that one. The Goglin says, I'm a Black Series collector, so just interested, do you have Black Series figures? If so, which ones? I do. I've done plenty of reviews on Black Series. You can check out my playlist for reviews that I've done on Black Series figures. You'll be able to see which ones I have there. I've even done a top 10 Black Series figures that I own. My favourite, I'll ruin that video for you now. My favourite is the Gamorrean Guard, and that still hasn't changed. Absolutely phenomenal figure, that Gamorrean Guard. But in terms of the Black Series, I only sort of pick up the ones that I really, really like the look of. Iconic characters. I'm not into getting them all. There's just too many. Chris Curran says, question for next week. Have there been any verified sightings of VC186 with the orange pill? You are my #1 source for all vintage collection information. Thank you very much, Chris. I get the feeling that that orange card doesn't exist anymore. That's my sort of theory on it. I think when Patrick said that, I think he was talking about the correction that they've done to Boba Fett's chest plate. I think that's what he was, he may have been fed some information that something about an error was done in the factory and only a certain amount of the incorrect ones managed to escape the factory, and I think that's what he meant. I don't really think it relates to the orange card. I think we would have seen it by now because it should have been the first ones to leave the factory if it was the first version, and nobody's seen one, so I honestly don't think they exist. Axel Anderson says, question for next week. If I were to get a HasLab Razor Crest graded, do you think it'd be better to get it graded completely unopened or to open it and get the carded figures and the ship all graded separately? Love you, it's homie. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing well, Axel. Thank you so much for asking. In terms of getting it graded, I think if you send it in and don't open it, then essentially they're just grading the box. I know some people do that, but for me, because of what's inside the box, I think that's a little bit pointless. I think if you're into grading, you've got to get them cards out. You've got to get that Jawa and you've got to get the child out of there and get those graded separately. And then if you want, grade the ship. All right, that's it for the questions. Now, if you did wonder why I have a couple of Empire Strikes Back Hoth scene figures here, it's because I have done a video with my son where we're opening some more Echo Base style figures from older lines, and that video will be dropping tomorrow night. But if you did want to watch it early, it will be dropping tonight for my Patreon supporters, because I do occasionally drop early videos for those guys. But that's coming up, and I thought with the upcoming re-release of the Echo Base Soldier that I wanted to get a little Hoth scene going, so I've bought some older figures, and me and my son little Bossk open a couple of those up in that video. And with all that being said, as I mentioned, that's it for this week's episode of Ask Boss Bounty. Thank you very much for the questions. If you do have a question for next week's episode, be sure to leave it in the comment section below, and hopefully you'll be featured next week. Thank you for the support of the channel. Thank you to everyone who watches the videos. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.